the funeral and memorial tributes honoring Joni Lamb were expected to become moments of reflection, prayer, and remembrance for one of Christian television's most recognizable figures. Instead, portions of the online Christian community have become deeply divided after emotional debates erupted across social media surrounding comments, tributes, and past controversies connected to Joni Lamb's personal life and remarriage. In recent days, phrases like "adultery celebrated" have spread rapidly online as supporters and critics argue over how Joni Lamb's legacy should be viewed following her passing. The controversy has created one of the most emotionally charged reactions the Christian media world has witnessed in years, with discussions quickly turning into heated theological and personal debates across platforms. Much of the conflict centers around Joni Lamb's marriage to Doug Weiss following the death of her first husband, Marcus Lamb, in 2021. Joni Lamb's remarriage became highly controversial among some conservative Christian audiences after critics questioned the timeline, public presentation, and broader circumstances surrounding the relationship. At the time, supporters defended Joni Lamb strongly, arguing that widows and widowers have every biblical right to remarry and rebuild life after devastating loss. Others, however, claimed portions of the relationship and public ministry messaging surrounding it made them uncomfortable emotionally and spiritually. Now, following Joni Lamb's funeral and memorial services, those old disagreements have resurfaced publicly in dramatic fashion. Several viral posts criticized aspects of the tributes shared during the funeral while accusing ministry leaders and supporters of celebrating sin, rather than addressing controversial issues honestly. Meanwhile, others reacted angrily toward those criticisms, arguing that attacking a grieving family during a funeral reflects cruelty rather than faith or compassion. Supporters of Joni Lamb insist the memorial services should remain focused on honoring her decades of ministry work, humanitarian outreach, and influence through Daystar Television Network, rather than reopening painful controversies during a time of mourning. Social media quickly became flooded with emotional arguments from both sides. Some viewers defended Joni Lamb passionately, describing her as a woman who dedicated decades of her life to ministry broadcasting, prayer outreach, and faith-centered encouragement for millions of viewers worldwide. Others insisted public ministry figures must remain open to scrutiny even after death, especially when personal decisions sparked controversy during their lifetime. One emotional supporter wrote online, "A funeral should not become a courtroom." Another responded, "People are grieving, not debating theology." Similar emotional exchanges continue spreading across Christian social media communities every day. At the center of much of the debate remains the complicated history surrounding the Lamb family and Daystar itself. Over recent years, public family tensions involving Jonathan Lamb, Susie Lamb, leadership disputes, and allegations connected to internal family conflict already created deep divisions within portions of the Daystar audience. Because of those unresolved controversies, Joni Lamb's passing has reopened many emotional conversations supporters and critics never fully stopped discussing privately online. Some viewers argue that her funeral became symbolic of larger frustrations they already carried involving Daystar leadership and family disputes over recent years. At the same time, many Christians online expressed sadness seeing a funeral become the center of public fighting, rather than unity and prayer. Several pastors and ministry figures urged audiences to approach the situation with compassion, humility, and restraint, instead of turning grief into public division. One pastor commented online that, whether people agreed with every decision or not, this is still a family mourning someone they loved. Another ministry leader urged Christians to remember that funerals should focus first on comfort and prayer rather than internet arguments. Still, the emotional divisions continue growing because of how strongly many viewers feel about both Joni Lamb and the controversies surrounding Daystar over recent years. For longtime supporters, seeing harsh criticism appear during funeral discussions feels deeply disrespectful and painful. For critics, however, the funeral tributes represent what they believe is an unwillingness within Christian media to acknowledge difficult controversies honestly. The phrase "adultery celebrated" itself became especially controversial after several viral accounts used it while criticizing portions of the memorial speeches and tributes involving Doug Weiss. Critics argued the relationship should never have been publicly honored so prominently, while supporters strongly rejected those accusations as unfair and cruel. Meanwhile, others attempted to shift attention back toward Joni Lamb's larger ministry legacy rather than personal controversy. Over multiple decades, she helped build Daystar Television Network into one of the largest Christian broadcasting organizations in the world, reaching millions of homes internationally through faith-centered programming and ministry outreach. Supporters also pointed toward her humanitarian efforts, women's ministry programs, prayer broadcasts, and years of Christian media leadership as reasons she should be remembered with grace and respect during this painful moment. As debates continue intensifying online, some viewers worry the emotional fighting itself is beginning overshadowing the funeral and memorial tributes entirely. Several Christians across different communities expressed disappointment seeing believers publicly attacking one another rather than focusing on compassion during a family's grief. Others argued the situation reflects larger tensions inside modern Christian culture involving celebrity ministries, accountability, leadership transparency, and public morality. In many ways, supporters say the arguments surrounding Joni Lamb's funeral reveal broader frustrations that extend far beyond one individual or one ministry, family alone. For now, however, the emotional reality remains painfully clear. Instead of uniting Christians in mourning, Joni Lamb's funeral has unexpectedly become one of the most divisive and emotionally charged conversations within online Christian communities this year. And while supporters continue honoring her memory through prayers and tributes, the fierce debates unfolding online show just how deeply personal, emotional, and complicated her legacy remains for millions of people who followed her ministry journey for decades.